But anyways, welcome in everybody. Glad you joined. Thank you for all the people from the Papa Juggernaut community from joining us today. Confusion, Caffeine Fiend, welcome in.
Stop.
Thank you for the follows. Everybody, since it's a podcast today, I apologize in advance if I'm not as, responsive to the follows or anything else like that. So don't worry, I'll make sure to get to you before we take a break or at the end of the show. That way we can keep conversation flowing. So yeah, thank you again, everybody. I know Invictus is a mixed bag for some people, so let's go ahead and jump right in. I'm gonna just kind of quickly show the little commercial they gave us, the promo for Invictus, and then from there we will start the talkings. Okay, all right, let's go ahead and jump right in.
The endless night was still and cold and vast. Yet in that moonless winter sky, unyielding they remained, tied to their mast. Forever watching, always standing by. Neath crushing blows, they fought on in our name. They battled bravely through endless wars. Our redemption, born of their bloody sacrifice, so that we might meet again on distant shores. It matters not whether they prevailed. For them, the cost was greater than single victories. Side by side, unafraid to fail. Their courage a beacon to guide humanity. Together, we are one empire. United in purpose.
So, that's how they tried to sell Invictus to us. It's actually not a bad video. I do like that.
Sorry.
It's all right. So, let's jump right into it. Let's kind of describe what Invictus is for anybody who maybe doesn't understand or is just kind of tuning in, right? So,
It works.
Invictus is a in-game live event that goes on over, well, this time it was 12 days. Typically it's 7 to 8 days, or in the past it was a bit shorter. This time most manufacturers got 2 days. Some get stuffed into different days, but essentially what it is a giant convention where they show off the merchandise, right? Where you see concepts, so you get holograms where you see ships that are in development coming through the pipeline that are to be delivered, and then you'll see ships that are currently in the verse kind of displayed. You'll get their kind of little podiums with like a description of them, and it's kind of cool. It's an interesting way of doing it, and I don't know that many other games that have done something similar, to be honest. At least not off the top of my head. But yeah, I don't know. Juggernaut, do you want to add anything to that?
It's a little bit unique for Star Citizen purely because they're still crowdfunding.
Right.
This is a fundraiser for them. This is how do we highlight select product based on lore. I mean, let's not, dismiss the fact that we only see ships based on game lore. This is geared around a specific part of the storyline. This is geared around the UEE Navy and things that are all about law enforcement and things like that. So this is a way for them to take the lore of the game and the whole verse and say, okay, let's create a fundraiser that does a really great job of putting those products front and center. And then, immediately, I mean, we've got just a limited amount of time here. We've got Alien Week coming up so that they can do that with alien ships. Then we've got Pirate Week coming up. And then you've got IAE, which shows pretty much everything. So, I mean, really it's a fundraiser. But it's a fun way to do it. And there are limited opportunities for people to save some money on ships that they may be looking to invest real money for. So,
That's a good thing you bring up with the CCU chains, right? The CCU,
mhm,
well, they don't call them coupons, but they're like in
tokens.
betweens tokens. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
like in betweens upgrades between ships, which typically will save you a decent amount of money. I personally didn't really get anything this
Oh.
Invictus.
Well,
Okay, I lie.
were you
I lie.
trying to? Is there like a
I
hole you were trying to
was
fill?
looking. I was looking, and okay, so we'll get to that in a minute. But there was
All right.
one ship that made me almost crack. But I didn't do it. But to kind of touch on what you were saying, yes, it's true that this is a massive crowdfunding event. It's where you're going to see them make a big chunk of change. And it's how they continue their development, right? And then one of the biggest things that we saw during this Invictus was the milestone of over 700 million crowdfunded raised for this game,
Yeah.
which got everybody talking about it. There was an article by IGN, a ton of content creators on YouTube and all over the place are talking about it, and it's really nice actually to see people talking about Star Citizen. And this time it was mostly positive, I have to say. I mean, from what I saw, and I didn't see everything, but there was a lot of positive.
Yeah.
Less, this is purely a scam talk, I guess I would say.
Yeah, I
Which
think
is
the IGN article said that the still controversial Star Citizen game.
hilarious, because they made a couple mistakes in that article, I believe.
You noticed that,
And
did you? Uh-huh.
yeah, especially when it came to the legatus and all that, and the big scary packs that everybody talks about.
Right.
And it's okay, not everybody gets it right. Some people are better at doing their research than others. It's fine. um
Burn. All right.
Sorry.
Anyways, back
But
on track. You said
back
we
on
were going to
track.
tackle CCUs later.
Yeah, we'll talk CCs later because
Yeah.
that's an interesting topic. You know, it's great to see that they've raised so much. It's really interesting to see how the games develop. But to kind of talk about Invictus, also typically is accompanied by a patch, right? An in-game patch where we see some
Yep.
new stuff. So because it's Invictus, it's around ships, it's around crowdfunding. One of the main things we always see is ship presentations or new ship sales. Um, this time we got some interesting ones, I think. One I didn't really expect. One I one blew me away, and I hate them for it so much. But what did we see that was new this year? Right, was the Pulse, was
Yes.
the Medical Ursa,
Mhm.
which brought with it a change in gameplay, let's say, or a modification in the respawn, and how that works. Because now you can
That was
respawn.
the controversial thing. Yeah.
See, I don't find that one so controversial, but that's just me. Anyways, so now you can respawn from any medical bed. So it's going to be the Medical Ursa, the C8R Pisces, which has a med bed in it. It's going to be the Cuddy Red, and then, which we already had, Carrick and 890 Jump. I don't think I missed any. Um, right? So you're always like,
I don't
what?
think so. No, I think you're okay. Yeah.
That's in game now, because then we can talk about modularity and
Oh,
Apollo and all
yeah.
that
That's a
stuff. Yeah,
whole.
yeah. It's a
Yeah.
whole other mixed bag. So we saw those. We saw the Firebird, the Saber. I want
Yeah.
to say Saber Raven Firebird, but it's not the Saber.
Saber Firebird.
Saber
Saber
Firebird.
Firebird. Yeah.
Saber Firebird. Then we saw at the same time a gold pass and a gold standard for the Raven, actually. And then we saw the presentation of two ships, one that we already knew about, Polaris. And then what else did we see? The fatter clad. No, sorry, the fatter pillar. No, the
Caterpillar.
the ironclad. There you go.
No, the Caterpillar.
The fatter pillar, which I think is a much better name for it than the ironclad. Ironclad's not bad, but
We got two ships this time that the community has completely abandoned their name already. So we have the Ursa
the Nursa.
Medevac, which nobody's going to call the Medevac. They're all going
No,
to call it the
never.
Nursa.
Yes,
That
absolutely.
will be the Nursa for the end of time. And then we got the Ironclad, which everybody is going to call the Caterpillar. So I don't know why Star Citizen bothers naming these ships. They should just ask the community, what do you want to call it? Great, we'll slap that on the sticker and we're done.
Sorry, I just realized why you look weird.
I look weird because, oh, look, that's better.
Yeah, I
I
had a
did.
chroma on you by accident.
You biscuit. Nobody cares. Anyways,
Anyways,
um,
and then the
yeah,
MPUV tractor. I forgot about that one.
yeah, there is an MPUV tractor that nobody cares
No,
about. But but like you said, the two that really sort of game changers are the Ironclad. Well, no, you know what? I think the Pulse is going to have a huge impact too.
I
I
think
think
the Pulse is
the
an
naming
interesting
around
one.
the Nursa is kind of weird, but I think the Pulse is going to be. I mean, I saw one guy; he had over 20 of them just for the LTI tokens. Like they're great little bikes.
So for that specific reason, I think it sold really well. Purely for people to have an LTI token to move on to bigger, better things with a CCU chain down the line. I totally respect that. I hesitated. I'm not going to tell you how many times I hesitated on the store page, going, "No, don't do it."
Is it? Wait a
But
minute. Is the Pulse the one that almost broke you?
no,
Oh, okay.
it's the Caterpillar.
I thought so.
Yeah, I have a
Traitor. All
Caterpillar
right. What were we
already. I
saying?
was just like, but I'm so close. It's right there. No, I don't want to do it. Um, but yeah. So okay, so let's talk about the Polaris for a second. Um, and we can go back to the Caterpillar after, because we saw the Polaris presented at the convention. We got to run around it,
Mhm.
and supposedly it was flying around in game. Now I have a question for everybody: who actually saw it?
I would love to put my hand up, but I can't because I never found it.
Me either. And that's what I've just heard everyone say. I haven't found a single person say, "Oh yeah, I saw it. Here's a pic."
You're right.
I
I
find
heard
that
a ton of
weird.
people. I heard a lot of, is it in servers? Like a lot of people were just, where is this thing? And then also the fleet. Like there
Yeah,
was supposed to be the Polaris, the fleet, all these different in-game features that I literally never saw materialize. And I mean, you and I are content creators. We're in this game.
all the
Never
time.
saw it happen.
No, and I chased it for the first 48 hours. I literally was chasing it. Like anytime I'd see a fireworks, I'd fly around, scan, 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 scan. The only thing you would see was at the very beginning, it was the Idris, when it's docked sitting there, and then for some reason at the beginning, it also had a retaliator right next to it that would sit there. That was a UE retaliator.
The only thing I saw were fireworks.
Wow, wow. Okay,
Saw
so here's my
nothing else.
question, and I don't want to get too into assumptions here, but like I honestly think that just didn't function. I think they purposely tried to put it in that they meant for that to be a part of it, and then it just did not work. And
I would
and
agree.
that's I think it's interesting that they didn't communicate at all on that. I think it's also interesting that more people aren't like kind of like raising their hand going, "Can you guys show us, prove us it was in game?" Like I haven't seen anything on it. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, I saw no photos. I saw no YouTube videos. It seemed to be missing, but whether it was missing or not, we still know what the Polaris is.
Hmm.
Um, we've seen a lot of promo video for it. So, on the one hand, is it a broken feature? Probably. On the other hand, do we know enough about it to decide if we want to buy it? I think so.
Oh, the Polaris, absolutely. I think. I
Yeah.
mean, we've known about that ship for years. Is I don't know if that's one of the original ones with the crowdfunding project in 2012, 2013.
I don't think it's that old.
I don't think it's that old. I know the Idris is, but I don't think that one in particular is that old.
It was
Um,
announced in 2016.
2016, got it. So I mean I'm disappointed we didn't get to see it flying around in the verse. I'd love for them to communicate on that now that the event is over essentially, just be like, "Hey guys, this is what worked. We're sorry. We meant for this to It would just be nice to know something about it other than just kind of sitting there scratching your head going, "Did somebody?" Um Yeah. So I mean, that was a little disappointing, but I still think it was absolutely fantastic to see something that massive in the convention center.
Yeah,
And
that was
I,
pretty cool.
it doesn't dwarf the 890, but it definitely feels military
Mhm.
and beefy.
It's a
And
big Corvette,
yeah,
boom, boom, shoot 'em. Yeah.
it's a it's so there was another ship that I almost cracked for, and the CCU chains I was looking for were to get me to a Polaris. If I'm being fully
Ah,
honest,
all
the
right.
one that threw me off and had me in a fit was the Fatter Um, and it's actually so. Okay, this is a question for you, because I know a lot of people get really excited about Invictus. They get excited about the ship sales and what they can potentially get. Is that something that affects you the same way? Do you feel that, let's call it hype?
Um, I do, but not to the same degree because I'm not just looking to shop. I'm trying to get to an Odyssey right now. My CCU chain that I've been working on for about 6 months, or a little longer than 6 months, is the Odyssey. So I didn't know what holes it might fill, or because there's some big gaps. When you get to these bigger ships, the dollar gaps at the top get wider. And so I was wondering if something might drop in that might close a gap. Um, but I'm in a slightly unique position also because I am not going to give CIG new money.
I Okay, and
So I'm
that's
not going to
awesome.
buy, like they have a CCU token is a little bit different, but like I'm not going to just drop money on a new ship. Like the Nursa came out, I would love to have that thing. It is so functional. I love its design. I think it's a great piece of new capability in the game. Sorry, I wasn't buying it. I didn't do it. I'd love to buy it, but I'm not going to give them the new money for it. The only thing I was adding were chains, links in the chain to my Odyssey. So I think that they're fun. I think that it's important because not everybody has, for example, $995 to put on an 890, or that's a terrible. You can't CCU to that, but 750 to get to a Polaris or something like that. So I think it's great that they give these opportunities to save some cash. And over time, as the CCU chain, develops, you can save 50, 60, 70, 80% of a cost of a ship. But I'm very restricted on that. I'm very, I'm trying to make, smarter decisions instead of just sending them cash. Um, so yeah, I love it. I'm glad they do it, and I'm glad that they are potentially closing the gap on some of these ships that, you talk about the Polaris. That's been promised for 8 years,
Hmm.
and we're finally getting it.
And they did
So,
announce the release date, which is November, I believe. October, November.
they said IAE, yeah.
Yeah, October, November.
Yeah, so
So
whenever IAE happens, which is ironic to me because that means it's coming after CitizenCon.
yes, okay. So I mean,
Weird.
there's so many questions about what's going to happen towards the end of the year, but um, to kind of keep going on what you were saying about not giving them any new money, the reason why I didn't go for the Caterpillar and I never actually pulled the trigger on a CCU chain towards the Polaris was I don't believe in buying ships that don't exist yet. I don't want to do that. And
Oh,
me personally, and I've talked about it on stream, and I say, hey, I don't think we should be spending money on JPEGs that don't exist yet. I have no problem with money being spent on ships that are in game that you can immediately benefit from. But I don't want to give them money for a ship that could maybe never get made because technically it's impossible, or get pushed back so far that that money could have been better served in within the verse, spent on something else that came sooner. The melting system is a good system, so there is always that option. But for me personally, I don't want to buy something that doesn't exist yet, and I usually think of the BMM, the Bruni Merchantman, the one we're not supposed to ever bring up, but
yep,
I'm bringing it up
yep.
because I know so many people who are like, I see, I have that ship. I've been waiting for X or blank years. Fill in the blank. Yep, so I'm so sorry. And I guess for me that was one of the benefits of coming in later to the game, was I was able to kind of see the path that had already unfolded for the game, and I decided, what, for me personally, I don't want to do that. I understand everything you said and respect the CCU chaining to minimize the cost of that ship, especially for capital ships. Because I mean, right now, I believe last time I looked, the Galaxy is still only listed for 350, 400, and the Polaris, because it's being released, is at 750. um, because we know that one's first in the queue, right? And then the Galaxy's after that. Now, once we get closer, once the Polaris releases and then the Galaxy is up next, we'll see that price go up, and then CCU chains will be, a bigger thing to get to that ship, and so on and so forth. And I completely understand that. And, again, I respect people and their own money and where they want to spend it. I think for me, one of the other reasons why I do that is because, well, we have things now. I it's just, and I've been struggling with this question a lot because it comes up on stream, it comes up in past podcasts and stuff like that of, like, where do you want them to spend their money? And I think we as players, as content creators, have to take a step back sometimes and be like, well, there's a reality of creating a project, of running a business, which is money needs to continuously be coming in so you can pay your staff, pay your salary, pay your costs, your licenses, whatever those may be. Those are a cost that you have to pay off every year. And when a game's in development, theoretically, most of those times, those guys aren't generating cash, especially for a brand new company, which CIG technically was when they started. So I understand all of that, and I have no problem throwing in some extra support to help them continue the dream and support the ambition to see the project come to fruition. So I would also, so the reason why I say that is because it's sometimes out of frustration I go, well, why are you wasting time making ships? Because the reality of how this project is made is that you have a ship design team, and those guys don't necessarily work on server meshing, and there would be no
Sure.
point in having them work on server meshing. So there's always going to be people working on ships, right? So I don't know. How do you feel about, like, do you understand where I'm kind of going with that? Do you see, like, maybe why people can have that frustration and, like, maybe a little bit of
Of
lack of,
course.
yeah.
No, absolutely. The frustration for me is very similar to what you just described. Is for me, I'm tired of. Similar to what you said is that I understand there has to be something to sell. CIG is not like, we'll take another very expensive game, GTA. So CIG is not like Rockstar that has an existing stream of revenue from 5 previous GTAs, Red Dead 1 and 2. Like, they have money that they can very easily capitalize on if they wanted to sell something, be like, hey, we need $100 million in the next quarter. Go sell some Red Dead shit. Whatever. Fine. CIG doesn't have that. They have to have something to sell.
Yeah.
My problem is that they're selling us things that are not being delivered. And I understand that development takes a long time. I understand development for a ship can take 2, 3, 4 years. But as I sit here and cry in Merchant Man, that's an 11-year promise. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't take 11 years to build a ship. Okay. The technology exists. And what they've said, the last statements that I've seen, which are now kind of dated, is the tech around the Merchantman doesn't really have a role in the game at this point. And then they lost the devs that were working on the Merchantman. They all left the company, and then blah blah blah. But there's a million excuses. But for me, it's like, okay, cool, but it's not just the Merchantman. Like, you've been sitting on some of these ships for years, approaching a decade for some of these ships, and yet you keep making new ones. So on the one hand, I get that you need to have something to sell. On the other hand, you would sell ships if they got delivered, and they're just not. So for me, it's I want to see, and I'm not saying that they have to clear the backlog, but I am saying that for me personally, CIG needs to make progress on the promises that are years old. We need to see Polarises, we need to see Perseuses, we need to see, we need to see the stuff that has been promised and sold to the tunes of millions of dollars. Millions of dollars have been spent by the testing base of this game to buy these things, and CIG's like, all right, we haven't given you a ship in 12 years, but Caterpillar. And it's like, we didn't need that. Like, we we had the skinny version and we're fine with that. You've got your Drake fanboys who are happy with their weird elongated penis. Let's move along and just
Space
stop giving us
phallus.
a different version of it,
Hmm.
So I'm very much in that place of If you delivered on more ships, you would sell more ships. But right now, you're selling more and more JPEGs, and everybody's like, "I'm getting a fatter pillar." And I'm like, Listen, as somebody who is not a Drake fan, even Jug recognizes that this is a really cool ship. I love the features. I love the design. I think they did a fantastic job from the design team. You ain't getting this for the next 2 years.
At
Like
least.
you're super stoked about a thing that is giving you a loaner that is really affordable. That I mean, just, like just go get that. Whereas now I'm going to contrast that with the Merchant Man. You can get a Merchant Man right now, which is absolutely a JPEG, no
Yeah.
question about it. If we ever see that thing, it's a miracle. But the loaners you get for it far exceed the value of the thing you bought. You get a Banu Defender, a C2, and a Hull C. The value of those ships, which you can buy all three of them right now, but the value of those drastically exceed the price of the Merchantman.
Hmm.
So, in your statement, you were talking about not buying things that are in concept at this point. For me, I don't easily dismiss the loaner matrix. I take a look at the loaner matrix and figure out what are you giving me in the meantime. And when it came to the Merchantman for me, I was like, wait, so I could spend $400 on a Hull C, I could spend $400 on a C2, I could spend 250 or whatever it is, 220 I think it is on a Defender, or I could save 50% on a $650 ship, so I can get all three of those for 350 bucks. What? Really?
So the loaner system
Nailed
is a
it.
really good point. It's absolutely very intelligent on their part to give people something to play with while they wait, because the wait can be very long, as we've seen. And for me, that was the main hesitation on getting the Caterpillar or not, because I
Yeah,
already have the Caterpillar. It's the loaner.
exactly. Exactly.
Why
That's
wouldn't I just spend the extra $70 to upgrade to the base Caterpillar? Like, I could have easily done that, and then that was my struggle. But it was exactly like you said. Like, I want to reward work that's been done, so I will buy the stuff that's in game. Now,
yeah,
I think you make a great point with the loaner system, and I know people who have gotten ships purely for the loaners they give in the meantime, right?
sure.
Uh, like you just said, the Banu Merchantman's a great example. I think what is it? The one you get with the
I was
Galaxy? I
just
think
gonna
it's
say
a
I'm really
Hammerhead.
curious what my loaner for the Odyssey is. I forgot.
I think the Odyssey you get a
Um
Carrack and something else.
Yes, I think you're right. I think it is a carrot because I was like, "Ooh, that'd be a nice one to add," because I don't have one.
Because I really like the idea of the Odyssey, and I mean we could talk about concept ships all day long.
But we're
Like,
talking Invictus, so we need to stay
yeah,
focused on the crap we didn't
exactly.
buy.
But so okay, full disclosure, the only thing I got for myself personally that wasn't for stream, because I got 3 starter packs during Invictus,
Wow.
was well, they were also on sale, so it was a great deal.
Mhm.
Was I bought myself some paints, which I
Oh, okay,
have.
sure.
I bought myself some paints for my F7C Mark II. F7
Okay.
F7A Mark II, sorry, because I upgraded. Which, then
Good
there's all
job,
the
good job.
controversy around that ship. I really like it. I like it for its style design, which brings me to the next thing, which was what do you think of them retiring the F7 Mark One?
Alright, so this is a tough one for a couple of reasons, one of which we just talked about. Existing ships versus promised ships. They're now retiring something seemingly, and again, there's been some statements about this from CIG, but seemingly they're retiring a thing that doesn't really have a role in the game. And is it a role because of lore or is it a role because of tech? I don't think it's terrible that they're retiring something for tech reasons. And I say that, and again, I'm going to say that as somebody who owns a merchant man. If they came out and said this tech is no longer viable in the development of the game, the merchant man will not be delivered. First of all, when I bought the damn thing, I signed an agreement that said I understand that. So it's really hypocritical if I were to come back and say, "What? How dare you?" It's like I had to agree to it when I bought it. Um, but if it was purely for lore reasons and they're just like, "Hey, we just want to sell more of the other one," I'm like, that's dumb. That's really insulting to your tester base. I don't I wouldn't buy something like that, but I don't have a problem with them retiring things um as long as they have a path for people who have it already or whatever their solutions are going to be. I'm okay with it.
So, Caffeine Fiend brings up a good point. Is retiring is kind of a strong word because they still have to provide support, technical support on a game point of view for that
Sort of,
shift. Like
sort
you
of.
can't sell it to people and then it breaks completely in 3 years and you do nothing to fix it. You know what I mean? So,
Sure, they can. No, no, no. I'll disagree with caffeine right there. First of all, I'll disagree with caffeine because he likes Drake. Second of all, um, they absolutely can. They can stop supporting that existing element, that existing chip in the game by simply phasing it out and utilizing a concept similar to a loaner matrix. Be like, look, you got this thing. We're not going to support this thing anymore, so you're getting something else.
okay, yeah, I guess I
It
hadn't
doesn't
thought of the
violate the
replacing it.
contract.
No, it's a good point. I hadn't thought of just a simple replacement. Like here's we'll give you a poster of it. You can put it up in your personal hanger,
Right.
and you know, we're upgrading you to XYZ, whatever.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, exactly it. They could do a lateral transition. They could do something where, um, it doesn't really matter. They can 100% legally and ethically. They could say that ship is being retired, and we do mean retired. It will no longer be supported in the game. If you have one effective this date, you're going to get the following thing or things,
Now,
plus a poster.
and yeah, and that makes complete sense. Now, the one thing that's kind of cool with it is now we might get like like car meets or like old school like uh air shows, and then people will show
Oh,
up
that'd
with
be
like
cool. Yeah,
retired
yeah, yeah, yeah,
ships. And they're like
yeah.
everybody in their F7 Mark 1, like look at me, man, with their giant open intakes. Anyways, I mean it can
That
create cool
flies out
things.
of the top of a caterpillar. Yeah.
Exactly. Pocket carrier. Um yeah, so I that's a really good point. I actually hadn't thought of that at all, to be honest. But that's encouraging to. I mean, I think that it would be a fair trade. Hey guys, this ship was something we thought of 12 years ago. Things have evolved since then. We know some of you love it. It might be somebody's fave, but here you'll keep it, and as long as it works, it works. And then when it doesn't, and we want to completely remove it, we will, yeah, hopefully transition to something else. I think that is
I'll give you an
probably the
example.
smartest play.
Here is a real world example from CIG when the Reliant ships were absolutely unplayable in game. They could not be deployed in the game. They kicked them into the loaner matrix. It wasn't a new ship. They were just broken. They're like, look, this is not only are they broken, but they're not going to work for a while. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to throw the Reliant system into the loaner matrix, and you're going to get a backup ship. All
Which
right.
that's actually I didn't know about that. That's really fair.
Yeah, the Reliant was in because it was a broken and there was a I forget the exact I think they finally kicked it down. I think they took out yeah, they finally got rid of it. But there was a little like line item at the top of the loaner matrix page that said the Reliant core system is currently unplayable or something like that. Um, oh, so okay, so forget it. There's a brand new one. I didn't even see this. May 14th of 2024. All variants of the mole are having various mining UI issues. As a result, we've issued a prospector loaner to all owners of any variant of a mole. Do the same thing with a ship you retire.
Mm. And Dederon Boulder actually reminds me of something that's very true. The Cuddy Black 318 or end of
Mm-hmm.
317, 318. You'd sit in it and it would slam you into the top, or you'd be stuck in the seat. So it was either instant death or a permanent trap.
Yeah.
And he's right. They gave you a loaner for that. They gave you something different.
Same
So
thing. So they
they
could very easily do that for any ship that is retired. They could simply post up and say, "Look, effective this date, the ship will not function in game. So you're getting X, Y, or Z, or all of them." Who knows?
And then, Caffeine Free brings up a good point, or brings up something that I'm going to answer because it takes me to the next thing. I don't think they have any plans for mole variants, but it's CIG, so they may. But the
I'm just reading
variants
all
and
variants of the mold. That's what it says.
oh, all variants of the role. Nice. Okay, so
That,
we are
that's
going to
the
get more
that's the
variants.
verbiage they have. All variants of the mole are having. I mean, the whole thing is plural. Yeah,
So it could just be a general verbiage they have so that they cover themselves for future iterations if they ever decide to do some.
yeah, it could be. Anyways,
But the variance and brings me into modularity, which brings me to talk about the Retaliator. Because with Invictus, with this patch, we saw the very first iteration of modularity in game with the essentially replacement of the torpedo bays with cargo bays for the Retaliator. What do you any thoughts on that? Excited about the arrival of
So this is
modularity?
one you're gonna have to teach me, and if your audience can teach me as well, that's fine. I don't have a retaliator, and I was not aware. I don't know if there was like early announcements for this, but I didn't know that they were doing the gold pass with modularity to release at ILW. So like when this popped out, I was like, really? Okay. But as I understand it, and I could be wrong, you can't buy the modules, right? Like what do you do with them?
So it's kind of a little confused. So I do not own a retaliator either, but I purposely bought one in game. I was actually one night where I was just trying to figure out what to do with my money in server, and I put it in global, and you answered go get a, what is it you told me to go get? The terrapin? No, what was
A
it that you
date?
bought?
No, that wasn't it.
Working on that. But no, what was the ship? Was it, I was asking for what useless ship should I go spend my money on? You anyways, I
The
was
list of
given,
useless ships in this game is lengthy for me,
it's
so I
very
could have told you many things.
it was very lengthy.
I probably said go buy a Drake ship and fill in the blank here. I don't know.
I actually did buy a Herald, so maybe that was it.
Oh, that, yeah, that might have been it actually. I might have said a Herald. Yeah.
I was like, I haven't owned one yet. Let's
Mm.
do it.
There
No,
you
but
go. Yeah.
I did go that night go get a Retaliator
Mhm.
because I knew of the arrival of modularity. Now I don't know
Mhm.
how long ago before ILW dropped they had announced it. I can't remember, but I do know we were talking about it. But see, it's kind of like an underwhelming development and first iteration of modularity. It really is, and I spawned the Retaliator with the cargo modules in, and it really is just empty cargo modules for you to put some SCU in there. And it's not
Mhm.
huge. It doesn't. I don't actually know what the SCU storage is on that. I'll have to look it up. But
But wait, how did you put? Well, no, wait, hold on. The base, I forget. The base one is the one with the cargo bay, right?
so okay, so that's where it got really weird when things dropped. All right, so as before the base for us was what they now call the bomber, which has
Oh, okay,
torpedoes.
right. Yeah.
Super clear, makes 100% sense. Bomber, torpedoes, moving on.
Same
Then
thing. Yeah.
the same thing. And then you have the now, I guess the base is the cargo variant is like the variant before the gunship variant, which I think
Wait,
they
there's more
call
than
it.
two?
Yeah, I think they call it the gunship
Oh
variant
Lord.
now. It's not like the cargo variant. So okay, it gets a little bit
Yeah.
more, yeah. And then so yeah, so then as a subscriber, every month when they come out with these ships, they give it to you to try out for a week or whatever, or for the month. Um, so I had two, and so I was like, okay, well I'm confused. I spawned one, thought it was the bomber, walked in, and there were the cargo things, but it was listed as gunship. So, anyways, they're
Right.
figuring it out, yeah. But so then I was talking about it with Mazda, I believe, and he was like, "No, I can buy the different modules now for my Retaliator." And I did see, I
Sure.
believe, on the concierge storage, they're now
Huh?
offering bundles for all the future modules and stuff like that. But I'm not 100% sure we have the exact list because I think they're still trying to sort through what can we really do, what's impossible, what doesn't make sense for this ship. They have said we don't want every ship that's modular to be able to do everything because you just slap in the right module. Like it still has to make sense within the game loop they want for that ship, which I'm totally
And
fine
then the
with.
galaxy flies across their face and it does everything, and then they're like, "Oh crap, we forgot about that one."
Damn it. And
Yeah.
then you look at the
Wait, that
Odyssey and
one
you're
does
like, wait, but the
everything.
Odyssey does, damn. It's like,
Yeah.
and that's okay. I'm not, those are bigger ships. I feel like that's not as big of a deal. Like if a Retaliator is small to not even medium size, really. So for it to have too many modules and be able to do too many things, like if the Retaliator all of a sudden had a medical module, I wouldn't really understand that.
Mm. Right. Yeah, that'd be weird.
It would be kind of weird. Um, so okay, so onto the Firebird. Let's talk about that a little bit,
Well, wait a minute. I
because
think to go back to your modularity topic slash question, I don't think I'm comfortable saying that it exists yet
that's a really good point.
because I could look. Was it 7 months ago? I could buy modules for the Galaxy. That's not new. You could buy a pack of modules for the entire Galaxy line. You had modules. They were in your hangar. Good for you. But you can't put them on. So even if you go into the, like you said, sort of the concierge store and you pick up a pack of these things, you can't go to Cousin Crows right now and swap them out.
No.
They don't exist.
It's
So
kind of weird.
I don't see that the Retaliator moved us forward. I think we're still in the same place we were at IAE at the end of last year, which is you can buy a thing that's not in game. So you have a JPEG of a part. Fuck the ship. You have a JPEG of a part. You you
Of a
didn't buy a
compartment.
JPEG of a ship. You bought a JPEG of a part. Like so I don't personally. I mean, like, again, I don't understand what the announcement was, but if anybody can correct me, please do. I believe that they sold the same thing they sold for the Galaxy, which is a concept that is not currently in game. Okay,
So I think it's exactly that, except this time we got a little piece of the concept, which is a
we did
cargo
see it. Yes,
bay.
no, you because
Yeah.
I mean, even in the showroom,
Hmm.
even at Bevic Convention Center, you could walk into these two retaliators, which cool. I mean, yes, you could see it. You just couldn't do it.
Yes, which
You
was
know,
a
I mean,
little odd.
this is a window in a red light district. You can see it, you just can't do it.
Yeah,
So
that was a.
I don't, I don't think we moved forward. I think the fact that they put a model in game, which by the way, I was in one and it was really weird. Like it didn't always work. So I think we're basically at the same point as we were at the Galaxy at the end of 2953, which is concept sellable, not in game yet, but please give us money. That's where I'm at.
I think that's, yeah, that's fair. And it is incredibly. That's why I said underwhelming, because
Yeah.
it's interesting to see them implement. I'm not going to call it modularity, variation for the Retaliator that then leads us to the modules. I don't know. I, c-
Yeah.
I c-
No, I would
you
agree
know what
with
I
that.
mean?
Yep.
Like,
Hmm.
so it's a baseline for the future tech, and at this, it's underwhelming, but I will say it's encouraging to always see these little steps be accomplished and slowly move the ball forward.
It's a
All
game
right.
in development. So yeah, the progress is progress. You know, and I say this as a guy who owns at least one modular ship I can think of, and that's the 600.
Right. And what are the different modules they've
So
already promised for that? I forget.
I c- touring and expedition is for or explorer, whatever the hell they call it. Technically, that's module. You're supposed. It's not supposed to be variants. You're supposed to be able to take that middle section, drop it out, and you're supposed to get a new 600. So it's supposed to be a modular ship. You can read the description on RSI's website. They describe it as a modular ship. But like you said, I think that's a great way to describe it is we've seen progress. We now have a variant that will lead to a module.
Yes,
I like your description. I think it's fair.
that's fair, and it's a little bit more realistic than modulations in game. Really? But okay, so the next thing I wanted to talk about, in terms of ship, in regards to Invictus. Oh, Mazda, thank you.
That's directed at me. It's fine.
Yeah, I feel aimed at too, but uh, do my best. No, I want to talk about the Firebird, which the first thing I want to talk about is how disappointed I am that they said they aren't going to bring a Trans Am paint for the Firebird.
That's what upset you about the Firebird?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm a simple
Do you know
man.
what do you know what disappointed me about the Firebird?
What was it?
The fact that they made the Firebird.
I was going to bring that up.
Just
Um,
first of all, the Raven, and I don't own one, so I'm not saying this from like, my ivory tower. The Firebird, Jesus, the Raven was supposed to be an exclusive Intel once in a lifetime thing that you got from buying some fucking GPU or whatever the hell you bought. I forget. Whatever. It's a rare thing. But like they've been doing recently, they're taking these rare things and making them not rare anymore. So I'm just I'm not happy that they're doing this because I think for people that had like the Raven, it's like, oh, now there's a red clone of it. What the? I don't get it. Oh, and it's just a lot of missiles. So who
and
cares?
I love in the Inside Star Citizen about it. It was like it's definitely different of a design than the Raven, and you're like, there's like two little fins there, and then okay,
Yeah,
your wings curl. What else? I don't know. That's it. It's completely different. Okay, all right.
completely different. Yeah.
It's
I
like,
was really happy, by the way. There are some very talented graphics people in the world of Star Citizen. And I love that they so instantly took that center section of the Firebird and laid it over the Raven, and they were just like, "Which ship are we getting?" I was like, "Yeah, it's the same thing." Yeah,
And okay,
exactly.
so clearly for me that, and I may be wrong. Uh, for me that was an indicator. They clearly knew that they could not resell the Raven because of that exclusivity deal with Intel around the sale of, and I can never remember what graphics card it was. Anyways, it's old. It's 10 years old. So, or sorry, 8 years old now, 7.
Yeah,
Anyways,
it's not doesn't quite go back that far, but it's close. Yeah.
it's been a while, right? And so we know that they did a gold pass, gold standard on it. It hadn't been touched in years. A lot of people were saying, "Well, I never fly that ship. It can't work. You couldn't interact with the MFDs." A lot of things were just kind of just. It was very basic and made back then, and not updated to current standards. So they did that, and I feel like, well, what did they understand? Figure out? Well, there's another opportunity to sell a ship here. Let's just make a variant and we'll slap that with a new name and give it a fresh new coat of paint, and boom, here you go, we can finally sell the Raven that we're not allowed to sell, but here's something that's just different enough that we're not going to get sued right away. So here you go. And you know I think, again, that kind of goes back to the conversation we had earlier about, like, well, shouldn't they be spending most of their time doing this instead of this? Well, like you said, they do also have to, fund the project. They know people love the Raven. They wanted to give something to people that was similar without breaking that exclusivity, without losing the rarity of that ship and who owns it. So I'm not saying I'm gonna go buy one. I don't own one. I got to try it out thanks to the subscriber thing. I flew it once, no, twice, crashed immediately the first time, and that was due to server. I think I just took off and went bee, and
Boom.
then and then the second time I forget what we were trying to do, and I think I was trying to get back to my body, so I didn't do much with it. Um, it's super fast. I do know that. I was low flying with Papillon SC, French streamer, low flyer, and he was flying only that. He loves it. He's super OP as a flyer, flies great. But I want to talk about his functionality for a second, which is the 12 size 3s for now. They have said they're going to add another additional rack. Um, Missiles that it has that fires from beneath. Now, as a functional design idea, I don't know anything really about that. For me, it's just seemed odd. I kind of think it's kind of cool to see them come out from underneath.
Yeah.
But I don't think it adds anything necessarily incredible to the game that we didn't have before. You know, I
No.
saw it compared to the MISC Freelancer Miss as just another missile boat, or the Tally, more closely to the Tally actually.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think that this is another one of those they didn't need to make it except for fundraising purposes. So I don't think you're wrong about that, and I think that um, if I think we didn't talk about this, we didn't touch on this particular element with the Polaris, but I think the Polaris is a great example of if you finish the promise, you will sell more of them.
If you make it,
The
they will come.
Polaris is not a new ship,
Yeah.
but when they said that it's coming during IAE, how many people, like we saw the verse explode with, I'm getting a Polaris. It's like, yeah, because it's finally real. We're
Yeah.
going to get this thing finally. And that's, again, that's the point that I'm making to CIG. I'm not here to give you new money because you keep building the backlog. If you deliver on the backlog, not all of it, I get that some of it won't happen, but if you deliver on the backlog, you're going to sell more of the backlog. You're
Yeah.
going to sell Polarises. You're going to sell Perseus. You're going to sell Apollos. You're going to do these things that you're saying. And it's like, hey, we know we promised, and now we're delivering. That re-energizes the base. And they're just saying, yeah, finally, cool. I want that. Give me my CCU tokens or give me a war bond or get whatever they're gonna do. I- The creation of the Firebird seems useless because it's a skin. I'm sorry, it's paint and missiles. So it's a weapon swap, and it's a paint job.
It could have
And
been
it's like, guys,
modularity.
right. If you had the people to do this, they could have worked on other things.
Yeah.
This is my biggest gripe with CIG. And I love CIG. And I even posted this on X. I was like, guys, your ship design team is incredibly creative. I love what they make. but why are you tasking them with making new thing? Deliver the things that they should be focusing on for the last 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, whatever years.
And I
So
feel like
I don't
that's
see a
just
point to the Firebird.
I think that's just a general trend with sometimes with what we see with CIG, and
Yeah,
I'm not going to go into detail, or I'm not going to start drawing comparisons because there are plenty of other companies that do this, but it's the marketing team leading the design, leading the development at times, right? It's the
sure.
look, we want to make more money. We're constantly thinking of ways to make money. We need one of these. You need to make one of these. You need to spend time doing this. Put that on the back burner. We'll deal with the hate. We want this. It'll sell. This will sell.
Mhm.
And sometimes that's frustrating. And I feel like that's where the only credence you can give to the claims of I hate saying that, I don't want to say this, but the claims of less than scammy, or the scamminess comes and gets kind of given its, I don't know, it's not legitimacy, but anyways, where
But they
that
can't
crap comes
because it's
from.
still delivering stuff. Like,
Exactly.
we know
That's where
the
it's like
game
I
is
get really,
progressing.
and it
It's just
truly is.
wasting time and talent. It's mission creep, it's project creep, whatever people wanna call it.
Feature creep, project creep,
Feature creep, yeah, it's all of
monetization
these
creep,
things where it's
whatever
like,
you want. Yeah.
guys, if you had 2 people that were spending time stripping the paints off of a Saber Raven, they had time to go I mean, it's gonna be a stupid example, but if they had time to do that, they had time to, work on white boxing the Ironclad.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a thing that is currently a sketch somewhere on a napkin. Like,
It's a
if you
blender
had somebody
render.
that could apply color, right? It's a blender render. If you had time for somebody to go and swap out missiles from the, or swap out weapons from the Raven to the Firebird, they had time to go figure out how to implement the dual size 2 tractor beams on top of the Ironclad and blah blah. Blah. Like, just why are you tasking people to doing things? Because again, if you had made progress on another ship, you would have sold the other ship and you wouldn't have to now support 2 versions of the Saber.
Yeah. Which was actually four, because there's the Comet, the Saber, and the Firebird, and the
Well, I'm
Raven.
just
And
I'm just
yeah,
Raven
but
and
like,
Firebird.
yeah.
I'm just pulling those 2 things apart. But anyways,
But yeah, no.
so
And Caffeine Fiend tries to make a point here about, well, maybe they were just training a team on something new, and so they made a ship off a variant. I can hear that, but I still would say it's
I
probably
don't.
marketing driven, or it's, yeah, driven by feature creep, everything we were just saying. It's not.
Yeah.
It probably is. Their teams are good. Those guys don't show up, like, I don't know how to use this. No, they're already trained in the in the tools they have, but they don't know necessarily the flow and
But
the
also, if
way.
you're going to train somebody, there's no reason. So I'll use the icon. So you could train somebody on the Merchantman, and if they break it, so what? It's
Yeah,
not in
what does it
game.
matter? Yeah.
It's as the Merchantman right now is as conceptual as the Firebird. So, like, or, pre ILW, I guess, pre Invictus, the 2 things were in the same state of concept, as in nobody had one. So, if you want to train them on a thing that you promised 5 years ago or 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Let them practice on that. What's the
Let
worst
them
they could do? Not
yeah.
deliver it? Okay.
Let them
Like,
figure out the
what do we need?
hurdles, the challenges, everything
Yeah.
they're gonna have to get through. Because they'll fix it along the way. They're not gonna make them. Oh, we made that mistake. Oh, it's because I wasn't experienced enough. Well, moving on. No,
Yeah.
some point somebody's gonna fix that, or you have a real problem. And that's not the way that Star Citizen CIG does things. We can give them
Right.
a ton of crap, but they call it a gold standard for a reason. And I know a lot of people are gonna be like, yeah, but nothing works in game servers. We know that's mainly server side. Um,
And servers are being worked on. They're
and
improving
they're
daily ish.
absolutely. And I've been, I will say this, since 23 and ILW started, I have never played this much since I first started. I have
Interesting. Okay.
I have been finally getting that feeling of like, we're almost there. Like, or we're getting closer to something that I can really fully immerse myself in, find progression, find reason, find fun, create fun. I'm getting to that point where, like, I feel like things are gelling a bit better together. Now, I will say one thing, and I know, and uh, with as much as I've played, I've also been very frustrated, and not necessarily because of performance,
but because of certain balances. Rep balance is
Oh, sure.
absolutely atrocious right
Yeah.
now, which is being fixed apparently in 323.1a. Uh, it's going to
1A.
be
Okay.
less. So that's why I'm also very excited for that patch to come out, and that's why I've taken a little bit of a step back over the last 3-4 days, because I also need to remember I have a life and I cannot be on Star Citizen 24/7. But then I got dragged back in over the last 24 hours because we finally got low flying to work in PTU. So the 3 weeks of being unable to low fly, the you know finally got to jump in, and it's actually really nice. And I want to talk about the servers, and they've kind of been all over the place since we got Invictus. And I think it's important
Yeah.
to talk about these because I think that's the reason why we're not seeing the fleet and Polaris in the verse.
That very well
It,
could be.
it's probably something related to the servers, whether it be a replication layer, which we all have to remember that right now we are testing, like really truly vetting out the replication layer for the first time. PTU was test environment. Evocati was even more of a test environment. Right now, the live build, we are testing out that replication layer. Like, I think we have to take a second and recognize how huge that is, that we're doing that. And I think we also have to understand that because of that, we're going to see a few of these problems. But with that in mind, I've seen server performance go from servers were at 30 FPS with like 70 people on them very shortly. It only lasted about an hour. It was great while it lasted. We all had a lot of fun, and then we were all very upset. I've seen servers be able to tick right up to 30 FPS later in the evening when populations go down and you drop at least 20 people. I had fantastic experiences where things just look great, it was smooth, but at the same time I couldn't call an elevator. And then,
Oh, sure.
you know, then things started to change, and there's another thing we need to bring up with that is 100% related to Invictus launch week, and bringing in new money and new players, which is the free fly. And we all know, traditionally, everybody knows this, and some people even take breaks from the game for the entirety of the time, that there's a free fly
Yep.
because it clogs up the servers. You have people who are coming in to test out the game. Now, I love that. I think it's great that they have new people coming in and trying out the game and being given the opportunity with no roadblocks to whatever you want to try it. And especially during a time where one of the actually cool features of Invictus we didn't talk about is you can walk around and any ship you see, you can rent it for, I think it's 24 hours or 20 hours.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
So
No, wait a minute. I thought it was like 3 days.
I think
Or
it's
is it just a day?
less.
It's either 1 day or 3 days. It's something like that.
48 hours, Jinkurian's saying.
Something like that.
Maybe I just wasn't paying attention when I got them and I kept coming in and there's only 18 hours left. What's this? Um,
Oh,
but
okay.
it's that is a really cool thing, and so I really like and support that they do that. But the other reality, as somebody who plays this game, is you got to put up with what that means for server stability. And with that in mind, I think compared to last year, our server stability was better than what it was before with the free fly, and also taking into account that there was much less that came into the patch for ILW last year than this year.
What do you mean came
Less
less? What do you
content,
mean?
less content.
Oh,
So
oh.
sorry, yeah,
Yeah.
I should have prefaced that. So content in terms like when we got EVA, we got the UI redesign, we got the star map,
Yeah, yeah.
we got quite a few things, and we're right now still waiting for two of the biggest things that we were all waiting for, which is personal hangars and cargo refractor. So
Yep.
cargo elevators, cargo missions. So looking forward to that. Um, so I think for me, I would have never played that much if it wasn't in a better state. So I don't know what your experience was and how you feel about the free fly and all of that, but
No, mine was the same. I don't back away from the game during free fly events. First of all, because I'm a Star Citizen guide. So if people are in chat and they're asking for help, I'm happy to answer those questions because I think as we bring in more testers, I think that's a good thing because that helps sort of expand the audience pre-launch, or even pre-beta, things like that. So I like doing that. I like seeing free flies. And as you said, I 100% agree is that the server stability for this free fly was better. Like, just comparatively, it was a stronger performance. So I think that all of those are good things. I'm glad that they do them while they have this enhanced content, this limited time kind of stuff. But I'm even more excited now than I was before because now it's less of a terrible experience. It's not great. Servers are still struggling, but they're struggling less. Servers are still struggling, but they're struggling different. Um, you got extra salty people who are like, God, I can't wait for this to be over. And it's like, okay, that's fine. I'm not going to say that you should or shouldn't want that. But at the same time, this is a really good stress test. So if you're one of the people that says, well, they need to they need to make the ridiculous new ships and these, straight to flyable kind of concepts to raise money, they also need to server test and make the servers have issues. It's the same concept. This is all part of development. So I would say that they're doing what they need to do. I don't mind free flies. I like seeing more people join the game. I like seeing people enjoy the game. And I also like seeing the people who aren't ready to play an alpha leave. I
Yeah,
don't want people sitting here treating this like a brand new game and thinking, "Man, that game's broken. I can't play it." No, no, no. It's not broken. It's you're not meant to be a tester.
and
It's just a
I'm
difference.
so happy you said that because especially recently I've had a few of those conversations and they can be incredibly frustrating. Um,
Yeah,
especially
I just don't have
when
them. It's just like, look, this is you volunteered to be a tester. If you don't enjoy being a tester, don't be a tester. There's nothing wrong with that.
and the problem is people assume that, well, I'm not a tester, I'm playing the live build. Yeah, but the live build is the true test.
It's
The
the alpha live.
PTU, yeah, the PTU isn't the test environment truly, and it's kind of annoying that this is how they're called and named, but the reality is the true test, the real test for anything that comes into Star Citizen is live, because there are a group of people who see this as the game,
Mhm.
the big capital letters game, um, the everything game. And we know, and you and I have talked about this multiple times on this podcast before. This is a game that's in alpha. It's in development. Every time you play the game and you click acknowledge, you are agreeing to playing in an alpha universe, in an alpha environment, in a test environment. Um, and that's the reality of it. And I'm really happy you brought that up because yeah, I had some in-depth conversations about that. Well, it's
Well,
unacceptable that
listen,
it's broken, and
I just did what you just said. I clicked launch game. The first four words, early access alpha version. Please read the following. Gameplay. Star Citizen is presently available as an early access alpha version in a state of active development. Literally, you don't have to go past the header, the subheader, or the first sentence to acknowledge that this is not a finished game.
you just have to read.
So quit bitching about it.
So, and it's a good point. And sometimes as much as I like to entertain people and some of the things, it's just frustrating after a while. And you're like, I get it. I understand this is not for you. And that's what it
Yeah.
comes down to. This is not for you right now. And one of the really encouraging things around ILW that I saw was a lot of content creators who don't typically play this game get into it, make content about it, and like I was saying at the beginning, a lot of their reactions was like, well, it's not a game yet, but look at all this cool stuff I got to do. Like, this was
Mhm.
really incredible. I really like doing this. This is impressive. We had one of the biggest streamers on Twitch recently switch over to Star Citizen, Summit 1G. I think
Yeah,
that was fantastic for the game to
I
have
agree.
somebody like that around.
And
Absolute
he did
clean came
spend,
over.
as I understand it, because I have not watched a single Summit stream of Star Citizen, but as I understand it, he does spend a considerable amount of time getting frustrated and bitching. And what I remind people is twofold. One, he knows he's playing an alpha. Two, he's a top tier content creator. So if all he had to say were positive things, he would watch his viewers disappear.
Yeah, that's
He
the
has to
reality.
come let's be real. He has to be an entertainer at some point, and he's never been shy about creating that kind of content. So if he's going to spend time complaining about the thing that he recognized was complainable, all right, like
It's part
great,
of
but
the
he's still
game.
playing. It's not like he quit. He goes
Yeah.
back day after day after day because he's enjoying it. pro
Ye-
gamer. He's enjoying it.
Yeah.
It's like even he can do it. So, like I said, I don't think this is an argument to be had. I think that Invictus did a great job during the free fly in terms of server stability. It was better, not great, but better. Um, and I think that if somebody walks into Star Citizen and isn't enjoying playing a testing environment, that's fine. Nobody should give you shit about it, and you shouldn't give the game shit. Just be like, yeah, this isn't my thing, and go play something else.
Yeah. There's plenty out there.
Yeah,
Plenty.
there's a Red Dead that you could hack all day long. Have a good time.
Yeah. I've been finally getting through Cyberpunk 2077.
There you go. See,
There's tons
always
of
something.
things you can do.
Yeah,
Um,
Minecraft is celebrating 15 years on Twitch or
that's
whatever. I don't
insane. It's insane. Absolutely, that's insane. I think
know.
no,
Fortnite has brand new season. Go enjoy.
yeah, it's World of Warcraft 21 years, 22 years, or whatever.
Yeah.
Like there's just tons of stuff. But, um, all right. So, um, well, there's one thing we haven't really talked about yet, and that's the capital ship that is the most ready for being in game, the Idris.
Are we gonna say it's ready? Most ready?
It has an interior.
I mean,
It
sort
has
of.
bays. You can walk through it. You can see almost all, I want to say almost all parts of it.
It
We've
has
seen
it
it
has
fly.
part of its interior.
It's like, I mean, it's almost, I'm not going to say 100% complete, but
I,
it's
right,
80,
like I
90.
saw I saw a content creator who piloted one. There was no floor under his chair.
Oh, but that's pre-version came out for ILW that you could tour.
I'm just
No, no,
saying,
I
like,
get that.
what?
Yeah.
I mean, yes, it is close. Um, I'm excited again. I'm excited when CIG makes progress on the backlog. I truly, truly am. I don't care if I've got it pledged. I don't care if I want one. It doesn't have to be centered around my selfish needs of I want that ship because I'm going to fly it. This is a you've promised dozens of ships and haven't delivered them in years. That's all I want to see. So
Mm-hmm.
if the Idris is ready to go, and they, maybe that's a citizen con deployment, maybe that's an IAE deployment. I don't know. Oh, by the way, for those of you who don't know, if you're new to the world of Star Citizen, IAE is Intergalactic Aerospace Expo. It's the big ship show at the end of the year.
Where
Just
everything's there.
yeah, we keep throwing around this acronym. It is the big ship show. All the ships are almost all. I think they is it. I don't know if it's all. I don't think that's a fair description. I think there are a couple that they don't make available, but who cares? It's
Yeah.
the biggest ship show of the year. Tons of stuff is available. You get to see new concepts. You get to see old concepts. You get to see new deliverables. You get to see new paints. Tons of stuff. It's a really big thing. Um, but maybe that's a CitizenCon delivery. Maybe that's a an IAE delivery. Whatever it is, you know, they're making progress on the backlog, and I'm happy to see it.
So the main reason why I find the Idris so interesting, which okay, first I'll say, did you walk around, take the tour?
I did not.
It was cool. I liked it. It was for me window into life in Squadron 42.
Oh, sure. Yeah, okay. I could see that. Yeah, I saw a video of it. I saw somebody that did take one of the tours, and I
Hmm.
was really happy. I was like, this is a really cool looking thing. But again, when that shows up, I don't know. I don't think we have a date, right? I didn't
No,
miss an
not for that
announcement.
one. And I think the reason why is because it's so tied into Squadron 42.
That's why I said, is this going to be a CitizenCon announcement?
And that's where I'm really glad you said that because that's kind of where I wanted to go with that is it's two things. Is do we think the Idris will come out before the end of the year? And what does that mean for Squadron 42?
Maybe. I I still think Squadron 42 is a 2025 thing.
Really? You
Um,
still think so?
I was I was excited that it was going to be maybe a holiday thing, but reading the monthly updates that they have on where they're at in development and how the um oh god, what is it? It's not
Roadmap?
no, the polish process. It's something in polish.
Oh, the polishing phase. Yeah, the
Whatever. It's the polishing phase. It's where they're, trying to finalize all the bugs. Um, it's content complete. Oh, feature. They're
feature
doing
complete. Yeah.
the feature complete and polishing and whatever the hell it's called. So I'm reading those and I'm like, wait, you're still doing mocap. You're still doing like you're revising scripts, which means you
So
then have to drop more graphics into the game. I don't see this happening before the end of the year. So I'm still predicting 2025, but could they at CitizenCon or at IAE say, "Hey, the Idris is coming with it." Could we get that announcement? Maybe not in game, but could we get the announcement that says the Idris will be deployed as a Star Citizen special to celebrate Squadron 42? That would be kind of cool.
Yeah, but to go back to the mocap and writing scripts. Now, the last I had seen on that was it was changing a couple things in a certain scenes. It wasn't
Mhm.
redoing entire scenes. It was bits and pieces, which is
Correct.
pretty typical for productions, especially like that. They're going to be doing that all the way up until release, essentially. Um, whether it be for film, games, whatever it is. So I don't think that's the biggest indicator that it's not as ready as I'm gonna say I'm hoping for. Um,
Okay.
but
Big
I
old butt.
think that with what we saw at Invictus and the amount we saw of the Idris, and I'll link in the description of this video on YouTube when it goes up, the video we saw of them talking about the Idris before ILW started
Oh, yeah.
Invictus.
Uh-huh.
Because they showed a lot of stuff in there that was really interesting. Is they showed they really had completely filled out and completed on their end the interior, and that actually certain things on the exterior, sorry, had to change very slightly to accommodate everything that they had crammed
Mhm.
into it. So knowing that we got to see, and I know schematics, blueprints mean nothing, but we actually got to see all that stuff for the first time, showing where everything is supposed to go and it's going to be and how it looks. Being able to do the tour does give me a little bit of hope that it's close, that ship at least is pretty close. I think you're right, and you nailed it when you said that it's going to be an announcement. Squadron 42 Idris, they're attached at the hip, right? We know
Yeah.
that your main ship that you live out of, that you fight out of in Squadron, is going to be an Idris. Um, and they said they won't release it because it goes with Squadron 42. They don't want to spoil it. Anyways, um, I think. So I don't know if you had heard this rumor, and I heard this rumor, and it annoyed me, and I purposely was like, "Well, I'm gonna wait and see if more comes up about it." And I haven't seen anything
Okay.
about this, which was the rumor of a demo for Squadron 42 dropping around SitCon.
I haven't heard the rumor, but it wouldn't surprise me.
Now, no, it wouldn't surprise me. Nothing
Because
surprises me in this
here's my
industry.
issue. Um, when they talked about 4.0 coming out with what did third quarter.
Yeah.
Now, that surprised me
Mm-hmm.
because it that means it's not coming with Sitcon.
Yeah.
In my brain after last year, my brain was like CitizenCon 2954 and 4.0. That's going to be their announcement. They're going to be like, "Yep, 4.0 is here. All the new features, the new systems. That's our big CitizenCon announcement, and maybe a Squadron 42 announcement of either a demo or a release date or something like that." But when they took 4.0 out of CitizenCon and they're like, "Yeah, it's coming in third quarter," I was like, "So what are you talking about at CitizenCon? What do we not know?"
So that's a really good point because that leads me to believe there's more going around Squadron at CitizenCon than anything else. Now,
That's why the
remember
demo would
though,
make sense to me.
remember what we had been told last CitizenCon, which was they were aiming for Evocati at the beginning of 2024 for Pyro. That didn't happen at all. And then within the
Not
first
even
2 months
close.
of
Yeah.
2024, they're like,
Well,
we're pushing it back summer. And then it was the official announcement of Q3.
yeah, but wait a minute. We did get Pyro. We
We
saw
got a
Pyro a little
test. We
bit.
saw a play
Yeah, we
test
got
of
that
the
test.
half of it, the
But you're right.
first three.
Evo, no. We have not seen it
We didn't
in
see
the
that.
EPTUs, right?
No, because we knew we were going to get the playtest last sitcon.
Yeah.
That's when they announced we're hoping to get it in the hands of, hoping to get it in the hands of Evocati. Didn't happen. Then they were like, well, yeah, summer seems realistic, and then it was Q3. So that means they have until end of September
Yep.
to get it out to us. Now, I want to talk about the demo again. The demo annoys the crap out of me. Why? Because then that is just a justification to push it back to 2025. We know fall of 2025, there's another giant game, and I talked about this last time with you, and I think nothing should release anywhere around this game, which is GTA 6.
Yep.
I think Squadron 42 has the potential to be something special. I want it to be. Will it be? Who knows? We still have yet to see it or play it. or test it as a demo, but I don't want to see a demo. And unless it's a vertical slice of the first 3 hours of the game, not like a changed experience,
Mm,
you're going to get a lot of backlash. You're going to get a lot of people going, well, just give us the damn thing. Like, what's wrong with it? Why isn't it not finished? Why are you
yeah.
giving us a demo now when you're saying that it's feature complete in polishing phase? After it's been a year, you've said that. Why are we getting a demo now? That I think would cause more problems than it would solve or help or bring in extra funds, because that's really what it's about, right? If you do a demo, is to bring in extra funds, hope people pre-order the game so that they're ready to go when it drops.
Mhm.
Um, you brought so what you said about it being Q3. Now, if they actually stick to that, that's a good thing, because then they don't have to deal with the hate at SitCon. It's like, hey, we were here a year ago. You said we'd already be playing Pyro. Like,
Yeah.
where are we at? And
Yeah.
so I think for them, from a marketing standpoint, they need to be considerate of that, and I think they are, and I think that's a part of the reason why we've seen such a push for so much content to come out, which is partly why we saw such an influx of content creators and people coming in for this ILW with a more stable patch. That is all positive. Everything we were
Yeah.
talking about, that is pretty freaking positive for this game, considering that its reputation, considering where it's coming from, the length of development, all that. Um,
I think at
my
this point, though, we need to give recognition to the fact that the devs, the community devs, the ones that are out there on the front lines dealing with all the entitlement and sense of self-worth that so many of these testers have, is they've been pretty upfront. And I've noticed this in the last few months. They've been very upfront with, guys, we have to push this broken thing to you now because we don't have time to keep waiting. We have shit to get done this. Oh, sorry, Mazda. We have things to get done this year. So, like, we can't keep refining, 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 refining. At some point, we have to get this into your hands because we need you to test it.
Yeah,
This
and
can't go
I'm
through QA forever. So I've given
so
them a
okay
lot of
with that.
credit. I think they need to keep telling us this because they're being upfront. They're saying, look,
Yeah,
we want to get stuff into your hands sooner rather than later. Even if it's broken, give us the data so we can fix it while deploying more stuff.
absolutely. And I think, and I've said it before, I've been pretty vocal about it. Give us the broken stuff. How are we going to fix it and push forward if we're not all testing this? I have such a problem with the wave system when it comes to testing. I feel like
It
now
seems useless.
it's so freaking useless. Now, if they have technical justifications for having a more controlled environment before it goes to everyone, fine, but that's why we have Evocati. And from what I've recently learned, basically anyone with a pulse, the ability to drop an issue council thing on Spectrum, and who applies can become Evocati right now. So
Ooh,
chat,
I haven't heard
everyone,
that.
all
Okay.
viewers, if you are actually interested in Evocati, now's the time to try learn how to do the proper postings on the issue cancel. It's not hard. I figured it out, and I'm very slow. Um, you can do it. Um, and if you are really interested in helping build this game more than just past just the live version, I would encourage you to do that, because this game does need it. Because it's pretty clear that they, and most of the video game industry, does not want to pay testers anymore, or pay much less than they used to in the past. So the reality is, if we want the progress, we have to pitch in. It doesn't necessarily mean open up your wallet. It means participation, being vocal about issues, showing them the issues, being able to provide the proper data. Those are all things that testers, true testers, should do. And that's why we sometimes get into this muddy water when we're in live and truly testing everything out of, oh, we don't have the right data. We're not here to give you all of that. Like, we agree to be testing your game, playing a test version, but we don't sign an agreement that we're going to provide you with data feedback. We're going to provide you with logs, crash reports, all that. That should already be built into the game, and you should click submit when you get a crash and you need the error asks to be reported to them. You should, because that's more data for them to gather and fix things. But yeah, it's important for me that we get through these rocky bits, because, and I'm fully support them. And like, Caffeine Fiend said, or no, sorry, Sliff said it earlier, we all hate this game because we love it so much. You know what I mean? Like, if we wouldn't be this critical if something you don't care about most of the time, right? So
I had a viewer, I think it was Wednesday or Thursday night. I had a viewer that said, "Oh, you've been Stockholm syndromed. That's nice."
I hate
I
how
couldn't
good that is.
I couldn't disagree. I was like, "Well, yeah."
That's
But I mean, truly, I do think I'm a little bit unique in that because I agreed when I started playing this game, I made an agreement with CIG that I would, pay them my $45 game pack and I would play their game. If they get data from me at the same time, good for them. I am under no obligation to fill out a single issue council report. I am under no obligation to submit a crash report. I don't care. If CIG vanished tomorrow with $700 million, my reaction would be, oh, it sucks. And then I go play a different game.
Is Red
I
Dead still
know
installed?
people are more
So,
dedicated. I know people are more invested in the game's development. They're more invested in the issue council. They're more invested in feedback. That's cool. I don't disparage anybody for being that level of invested. For me, if they get data at the same time I'm having a good time and entertaining an audience, lucky CIG, because that is the end of our relationship. I have no obligations beyond it.
that's a good point, and that's the proper word is obligation. We do not have the obligation to provide that to them. And like I said,
Nope.
those tools should be built in and made as easy as possible for them to get that data, not as easy as possible for us to give it to them, but for them to get it. It's not
Yeah.
our responsibility to provide that feedback. Now,
Yeah.
like I said, if you want to go Evo, that is your role as an Evocati, is to
That's a different contract.
it's
Yeah,
a completely
there's
different
a separate
contract. Yeah.
agreement. Mhm.
And what I did think was really good, and to touch on communication and their improvement there, because it is truly improvement we've seen over, I'm gonna say 6 months, not a year.
Turbulent.
Turbulent.
When they
Turbulent was a
acquired
great
Turbulent, I noticed, I don't know about anybody else, but I noticed when they acquired Turbulent, they suddenly started acting like professional studio.
because they had a studio that had made multiple games now under their belt.
Whatever whatever it is, it seemed like all of a sudden there were adults in the room and they, Turbulent was like, "We're going to put things on track now. Like we're going to build a path and stick to it." I'm
Yeah.
not saying they're perfect, but for me, that Turbulent acquisition seemed to be like when things got better because it's like, yeah, we're all working together now, so let's right this ship.
And now with a bit more time that's gone by to be able to reflect on that, that was a great acquisition. It
I
feels
agree.
like so far it has been nothing but positive to come out of it. And I was happy to see CIG's team grow to 1,000 plus, and I think it took them to close to 1,200.
I
Um,
think there's been 2 really great developments recently, that CIG I think should get credit for, and I think Chris Roberts should get credit for. I'm not one of these people that tries to drop Chris Roberts' name into every conversation, but I think for him as the head of this studio, I think he should get credit for 2 big things recently. The first is the Turbulent acquisition. Take them out of the vendor role, put them in-house, and bring that team together. The second thing is, what the hell was the second thing? The second so Turbulent was the first thing, and the second thing, oh, Rich Tyrer.
yes,
Bringing
him
Rich
stepping
Tyrer
up.
over from Squadron 42 and saying, "You know what? You and I are going to lead this ship to 1.0." I don't know a ton about the development of Squadron 42, but I think having one guy that can collaborate with Chris Roberts, who's the visionary of the company, you've got to get an implementer. You've got to get somebody who can take Roberts's vision and try to narrow down the feature creep. Try to be like, Chris, I know you love that idea, but my job is to be able to be the one guy in this company that can tell you no, and it actually holds. So, Chris, I appreciate that you want to create Firebird 12. No, we're not making that because we're going to go do other stuff that's important to release. So, I think Chris Roberts gets credit for 2 very big important decisions: buying Turbulent and making Rich Tyrer the head senior game designer or game developer for Star Citizen and Squadron 42. Get the focus in there. Get that streamlining of the process. I love it.
And I would say to expand on the second point with Rich Tyler, what's his name? I can never get it
Rich
right.
Tyrer. Yeah.
Rich Tyler, sorry. That is a man who's clearly a professional, who understands how to get from point A to point B, and who, unlike CR, isn't the one who dreamt it up. he's
Yeah,
not clouded with visions of
exactly.
popcorn in space and beautifulness and all that stuff, or the true the whole story and all the universe, right?
Yeah.
He's clearly somebody that's good creatively, but who professionally is trying to deliver. And I won't, and I'll link it again in this video when it goes on YouTube, the ISC when he's being interviewed with the two other guys, and he says, and this is where he won me over. I am forever a fan of him. He's like, "Look, our problem right now in this game is it's individual things spread out, things to do. It's individual separate game loops. What I want now is to unify that all together and create progression, create somewhere where you're heading towards." When he said that, I was just like, everything I've wanted to hear for years now. Oh my gosh, like, yeah, is this for real? Is this happening? Who is this guy? Where'd he come from? Why is he being hidden away? So that was so incredibly refreshing to hear somebody who's kind of like, no BS. This is what I'm doing. This is where I'm going. This is where we're trying to go. This is what we're trying to achieve. And that was so incredibly refreshing to hear. And like you said, really, guys, hats off to CIG on that stuff. We give them so much crap, but really, they did those things right, and that guy seems like the right guy to be in that place. And another thing, and to CR's credit, it looks like he's stepped back a little bit in order to allow the project to properly switch gears and keep going.
I don't know.
I mean, yeah,
I
maybe.
hear so little about Chris Roberts' involvement. Like,
Hmm.
outside of the memes and stuff, how much do we genuinely hear about Chris Roberts saying something?
Well, it's mostly, on my understanding, is because people got really upset with the letters from the chairman and everything he was saying. So it's kind of
Well,
like, dude,
whatever. I
can you
mean,
stop?
that's fine. But again, if that's the case, for whatever the motivation is, we don't hear about Chris Roberts stepping into a board meeting. We don't hear about Chris Roberts
No.
leaning over a developer's shoulder and saying, "Yeah, make that thing. That's cool." Like, we don't hear a ton about his actions.
Hmm.
Now, he spoke at CitizenCon. He does have these letters to the chairman, or from the chairman. Not to, you know, there are these sporadic, generally vague. I mean, flat out at CitizenCon, he's like, "I'm not saying a date because you're going to get mad at me."
Because we
Like,
always do, rightfully so.
right?
It's like,
Yeah, exactly. Because you tell us these things that are not deliverable. But like I said, now with Mr. Tyrer there, I think we now have somebody who can tell Chris no. I think we now have somebody that Chris can bounce an idea off of to make it less of a vision and more of a plan. Um, so I think that that's a game changer, and I think that like I said, Invictus, we saw a lot of new things. It's going to lead into the third and fourth quarter of new features, new ships, closer to 4.0, Alpha 4.0. We've got a lot of cool stuff coming up, and I think Invictus was a nice step forward, even with a couple small steps back.
I think Invictus was a good thing, refreshing to see it wasn't the same as last year. Um, it was encouraging to see the amount of content come into the game function the way it did. It was nice to see some of these new ships and changes in the gameplay. I'm thinking mainly of the medical Ursa. Um, the Pulse, yeah, I think it was interesting, but yeah, I guess just to kind of sum up Invictus this year, not bad.
No,
Not bad.
I,
Not
I
great.
agree. Not bad.
Not not great. Not horrible. Not bad. Not bad to
That-
good. Not
That's the other element of realism that I give myself all the time is I don't have to like everything.
yeah.
That's not CIG's goal. CIG is not sitting there going, God, we hope Papa Juggernaut loves this stuff. Or, man, if Latire doesn't like it, we're not going to make it. Like, they
Oof,
don't do that for anybody.
those
They're trying to make a thing that, feeds a lot of different feedbacks. So I'm allowed to sit there and say, you know what? CIG knocked it out of the park on A, D, F, and Q. B, C, and E, a little fucked up. Like, I just,
call it as it is.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, Caffeine talked in chat about Chris Roberts not being involved as publicly. That's fine, but that just means that I can't comment. I don't want to assume what he's doing.
And then all we
I don't
see
want.
are
I
the
don't want to sit here and be
BTS
like, I'm going to blame
videos.
Chris
Yeah.
Roberts for something, or I'm going to praise Chris Roberts for something if I don't know he did it. I know for a fact Chris Roberts had to approve the purchase of Turbulent, and I know Chris Roberts had to approve the new role for Rich Tyrer.
Yeah.
Those aren't assumptions. We know that for a
He's
fact. He
the
had to
owner
do those
and
things.
yeah,
Yeah.
leader of the company.
But in terms of like when should the Pulse get released? I don't know if that hit his desk. Maybe it didn't. I don't want to jump. I don't want to assume stuff like that.
Right, because at some point, the guy at the top, the person at the top, whether it be male or female or whoever, they are not always burdened by these smaller issues, right?
Right.
Their goal is to see the overhead, the umbrella, the everything, the bigger picture.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, to go off what Caffeine Fiend was saying, like he's probably still implicated, still active in the
Sure.
development. Um, there's also another reality we're not talking about. He might already be thinking about Squadron 42 Part 2. Like, who knows what he's really doing,
Sure.
besides what we see in the behind the scenes videos, BTS stuff that they post, and like the stuff we saw for SitCon last year. And look at me, I'm working with the devs. No, so that's traditional promo stuff, but I do actually
Yeah.
believe, and from anecdotes and stories I've heard when he was on Wing Commander producing and half directing that movie, like he does like to be very involved in what he does, and that's his character. And that's great. um and I don't think it's a bad thing that we hear from him a little bit less publicly, because I think he's somebody that truly believes what he says and gets excited by what he's talking about. So I don't think he's doing it with malicious intent when he says some of his stuff. I really think it's him, the little boy in him, getting a little excited, and it's like, oh crap, I probably shouldn't have said
Yeah.
that.
But let's
And
also talk about roles. Just I can make one quick comment.
yeah,
If we needed somebody at the top who had an English accent, great. We have Rich Tyrer now, so we don't need the Chris Roberts guy. Let's move on. Let somebody else talk.
we've heard you for 10 years, 11, 12, how many years? Yeah, take
Yeah.
a seat. No,
New
but
Brit.
I mean,
Yep.
I still, love the project, love the ambition, love where this is kind of going, and I'm very curious to see what we get in the next 6 months, because I do, it's no longer a belief, it's kind of a fact that this is some of the biggest times, most momentous moments in the history of this game, and for what's about to come, and for we don't talk about this enough, for its viability in the future.
Yeah.
And there's one controversial topic we didn't touch on at all, which came with Invictus and 323, which was master modes.
We had that before Invictus, didn't we?
Yeah, but we hadn't really seen it implemented in the game in live. It was
Oh.
still just test stuff for the PTU, which I only tested once. But there's always going to be, just to make the point of, there's always going to be things that are controversial with master modes, the NERSA, the respawn system, the Firebird. It's a game in development that's trying to make money, that's trying to survive, that's trying to be a viable project for 10 plus years, because that's realistically how long it's going to take to get close to the and final product. But what do you call a final product for a live service game?
I don't have a ton to contribute in terms of master modes, and that's for two reasons. One, I did not test it at all until it hit the live servers. So for me to, comment on how it's evolved, even in the limited testing environment we saw it, I can't. Um, the second is CIG has been very upfront that this is a system that is not going away. This is a big vision of theirs. They want to build this system with all the different features. Things will get tweaked, things will get adjusted, things will get refined. But there is no amount of outrage from the community, and I don't think it's risen to this level anyway. There is no amount of outrage from this community that is going to make master modes go away.
No.
This is what the game will be. So I think that the outrage, for whatever frustrations people have, I think we need to see less of the profanity laced "I hate Star Citizen" posts. I think we need to see more of the here's some constructive criticism on what does and doesn't work. Please
Absolutely.
tweak.
And that's what I was going to say is, I I've to very generally sum up my experience with master mode so far, and my feelings towards it is, I think it's the right direction to go for this game, but right now is not the right balance, and that's normal. First
Sure.
iteration, it will be improved upon. And from what I've understood, there are truly only 4 or 5 ships and the smaller ones that have had a true master modes pass on them. And as they continue to evolve that, it'll spread to more and more ships. Because one of the complaints I've had and I've seen from others is your shields pop a little too quickly on bigger ships. Um,
Maybe.
and that's fine. Like I said, it's a balance thing. First iteration, it's going to be improved upon. Do I like the way it feels right now? Not necessarily, but I agree that this is the direction it needs to take, primarily from my experience of bringing in new players with Invictus and this new patch, and just observing their experience with it as completely inexperienced pilots. It made their life a lot easier. And I want to say that I noticed beginners not do the, oh crap, I have to fly somewhere, as much, and be like, okay, this makes sense. Slows down my speed, I go faster. Okay, now I can travel. Okay, now I have weapons. I'm not saying it's great as it is right now, but I understand the direction, and it did seriously make certain people's life easier. It's not as daunting now to fly a ship. Um, and I will say that that was something I didn't expect to see, was encouraging to see, and to the new players who are maybe still a little intimidated because you haven't tried out the new flight system, I think it'll help you.
I can go with all of that. Yep.
But it needs balance, or it'll be developed
I,
in the
I
future.
think there's too many iterations. I think there's way too many modes in master modes.
It's
I,
my one
I'm
of my
I'm middle
gripes.
mouse clicking all the time. I'm like, am I scanning something? No, I want to shoot things. Like if I'm in a Corsair, nah, maybe not the best example. If I no, screw it. If I'm in any fighter, please don't give me 9 different things I can do in that ship. I should be able to fire missiles and raise shields anytime I want. It's a fighter.
So actually, that brings up a really good question I have, because I had just realized I haven't tried this. Has anybody gotten in a snub since Master Modes? Do you still have a nav quantum? No,
No,
right? You wouldn't.
no.
Okay, so maybe,
But like I said, if I'm in an
yeah.
F7, if I'm in a Gladius, if I'm in a Corsair, and I understand a Corsair's a explorer ship. No, it's not. That's a bullet boat. So if I'm in a fighter, I should be able to raise my shields and fire a weapon any mode I'm in. I don't care if I'm in. I should be in the toilet and be able to fire those things. But right now I can't. I've got to cycle through middle mouse clicks and find, am I in nav mode? Am I quantum jumping? And am I do I need to power the hamsters up? What am I Sorry, if I'm in a fighter ship, give me the ability to fight any time I'm in that boat. Just make it that simple. But like I said, I think there's too many iterations of modes in master modes, but I understand the concept of master modes where you were sort of defining what the ship is intended to do at that moment. That's fine.
And one of the things I realized kind of quickly with this Master Modes and the way it works, one of my gripes became, you should have some sort of shield when you're in nav.
Yeah.
And the reason behind that for me was, think of it as a new player who's still learning those systems, who's coming out of quantum, and who just gets lit up by somebody
Yep.
who's sitting there waiting for them because they know, and they're taking advantage of that. That is going to be a problem. I think it needs to be addressed. I think that, agreed, it all makes sense that they're breaking these things kind of up, but they need to really think more past just the, oh, this makes sense for me. What's a new player gonna feel like? Is he gonna get ganked or jumped on and gangbanged every time he leaves a port with some cargo because the guy is not quick enough at switching his freaking mode to get his
Yeah.
shields up? Like, is I feel like if you're going to stay with that, then you need to seriously up the hull points, or whatever you will call them, the life points, the HP of your ship, to deal with the fact that you're going to start getting pummeled before you can get your shields fully up to defend yourself with guns which come with it, by the way. Um, so I think that was one of the biggest things I pointed out that I saw as an issue. Um, And I think that, yeah, you can't gear everything towards new players. Absolutely not. No, but you can't shun them and make their life harder. Because yeah, you'll get more dedicated people for the game, but you're gonna get a lot less. So I think there's that balance in that reality.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean,
So is that it? I mean, did we liked Invictus? I think.
I think we liked Invictus.
Yeah,
I
good with
think
that.
this was encouraging. For me personally, thought it was encouraging. Um, and I mean, based off what you were saying too, it doesn't sound like you had a horrible experience.
No, I think that there were many more steps forward than there were steps back. So net progress. Um, and especially like for my audience, if I struggle with master modes or I get into a ship that I don't know how to fly, and I'm just like, wow, what does all this stuff do? They just love watching new ways for me to die. So it's fine.
It's very entertaining.
Yeah.
It's pretty too when it happens. But no, I think this Invictus was a good thing. And, I I do think it's sometimes important for us as content creators to kind of like give some context to it for people who are coming in, because like, what's this Invictus launch week? What are you doing? Like, it doesn't make sense. Um, so I think it's important for us to, kind of remember that this is also a time when a lot of people come in. It's, yes, you are a guide. I've been meaning to sign up for that as well, and become one. Um, and all that to say that it's possible because this is such a great community. Look at how patient we are sitting here for some of us 12 years. Um, and yeah, but I will say that I think, and we touched on this briefly at the beginning, that as an in-game event, I don't think it's super important. I don't think it's a must-see event in the verse, but I think it's an interesting take on trying to fundraise some funds for the game. And also, this is one last thing I want us to kind of talk about at the very end and end on potentially is, you know, this is not forever, the ship sale.
Oh.
This is something they've said in the past will end with 1.0.
Mhm.
I'm very curious about that. So with
But
that,
that's a ways away.
that is a ways away. We have time to see that one coming. Do you have anything you'd like to add?
No, sir. I just appreciate you inviting me on here again. I love chatting with you, and you've got a great group of people in chat as well. So this was a lot of fun, and I'm glad we got to reflect on the second quarter fundraiser known as Invictus Launch Week.
Yeah, the fundraiser. And I'd say that is the correct term, everybody. Fundraiser. Again, I so grateful you could come on the channel. Like you same. I really do enjoy these talks. I think it's important for us as content creators to have more of these, or at least some of these every once in a while, to continue to see other people's perspectives, to broaden our views potentially on the game. And yeah, I'm very grateful to chat. You guys were absolutely fantastic today. Tons of information and ideas and suggestions coming in through there. And I want to say thank you to everybody who came over from Papa Juggernaut's community. We love having you here. Very, very grateful for all of you who are not from Papa Juggernaut's community, who are from mine or who are new here today. First, thank you for coming. Thank you for checking me out. Make sure to go drop that guy a follow. All right. I would really appreciate it. He would really appreciate it. And he's a fantastic streamer. Um, Again,
Thank you, sir.
everybody, thank you, everybody. I hope you enjoyed Invictus. Let us know in the comments on YouTube if you didn't. I'm curious to see why you didn't and what might be your take on that. And again, yeah, thank you for everybody who dropped a follow. Sliff, I'm sorry. Thank you for your follow. I really appreciate it. Thank you again, Dedron Boulder. Thank you again, Caffeine Fiend. Thank you again, Falcon, for the sub. And yeah, everybody. I look forward to doing the next episode of Tired Table. I'm going to try to get these coming a bit more regularly and not have such big gaps between the episodes anymore. And yeah, thank you again to Jug. Thank you to his community. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, mods. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.